Hello and welcome to Finding Nilo. This is the second episode of the 7 stages of being, and in this episode I'll be talking a little bit about the reproachful self, which is the second stage. Time now to move on to the second stage. There's like a whole host of people who are stuck at this stage, or not necessarily stuck, but kind of like moving forward then falling back onto this stage, that cycle. And the reason why I believe is because we always have this inner battle between the ego and the superego, which I'll get into in a moment. So this second stage of being is called the reproachful self. In this stage, you're kind of experiencing a shift, a transition, so to speak, as in you're transitioning from the abject nature of being in the commanding self or experiencing the commanding self to kind of now moving towards wakefulness. You know, you're becoming a little bit more conscious. So for example, you know, you're about to commit something, you're about to do something, and then you kind of have this moment of morality. You have this moment of thought where you process and evaluate the morality within the action that you're going to commit. Now, in the commanding self, there is none of that. So you don't have a screen of morality, a filter of morality to put your actions through. Whereas in this one, although you might still commit the action, you still have a moment of wakefulness. You experience a moment of consciousness in which you kind of, as I said before, you evaluate whether it's wrong or right. Imagine that you are on two states, okay? So the human being is represented through two specific states: bestial state of action and an angelic state of action. The reproachful self is kind of battling in between both actions. You're assessing the value, the morality, and the right and wrong within that situation, or even the ethics behind the action and the thought that you might have. I was listening to a talk by Hamza Yusuf actually, and he was explaining the general state of human beings, and that battle that I was talking about earlier, that inner battle that we all experience. And it's interesting because he gave a really good analogy. In that analogy, he had kind of said that, you know, human beings were made of earth and water. So if you look at the nature of earth and if you look at the nature of water, it's interesting because water allows light to penetrate through, and it's purification. The nature of water is purification. And then you have earth. Earth itself does not allow for the light to penetrate through. And human beings, we are a mixture of these two elements, okay? So in a sense, we're always experiencing this one side of us that won't allow for the light to reach us, this one side of us that is bestial in nature. And then we have this other side of us, which is actually yearning for it, which is yearning for the light to enter us, which is yearning for an angelic, blissful state. And so we are in constant clash. And I guess the goal in life for this experience is to kind of find an equilibrium. So this analogy of the earth and the water and human beings being a mixture of the two is basically a visual of what the reproachful self would look like if it was a thing that looked like a thing. If you can't find an equilibrium, it's because you are experiencing conflict in trying to attain that balance, so to speak. This is actually very well explored in a concept called the stages of psyche. This concept kind of splits the human psyche into three: the id, the superego, and the ego. Now the id kind of it's basically the stage one of the 7 stages of being. So it's the carnal base desires. And then you've got the superego, which is basically being conscious to moral aspects and being able to assess and evaluate your actions and your thoughts and the way in which you carry yourself. Really, you then have the ego. Okay, this is you basically. So this is you, your essence, and it's like a battle between the two within you. So sometimes the ego falls prey to id, in the sense that it commits actions based on carnal desires and what have you. And then you have the super ego, and anyone experiencing a state of wakefulness, a state of now beginning to walk into consciousness, what happens is that the super ego punishes the ego. So here a human being will experience emotions of guilt, you will experience kind of blaming yourself, and you experience self-reproach, you know, and this is the way in which the super ego manifests itself. So ultimately, I think that the key to understanding how you're transitioning through this self-reproaching stage really is being able to identify the emotions that are manifesting through the super ego, which can be, as I said before, reproach, regret, and understanding that this was wrong. However, I have to say that it's easy to fall into spiritual ego at this stage in particular, because you're kind of, you know, you've experienced the commanding self and then you've transitioned into the reproachful self. You can sometimes feel some arrogance here. What I mean by arrogance is that you're at a different stage than a lot of the world in this case. This can make you look a certain way at other people who have not yet attained that. I would say just be very mindful of that. It's essential. It's essential for your growth. But what is even more better in terms of the quality of the journey that you're going through is being able to be kind to people who are not there, being able to show compassion not only to yourself, but being able to project that compassion onto other people and helping them in their transition, because this can feel really lonely, because you're always experiencing this battle. So you can be in situations, you know, you can be at events, at parties, at places full of people, and this is me speaking from my experience, and you can feel super lonely. You're absent in your presence. You're not there with your heart, because your heart is occupied with a really big struggle. So be easy on yourself, understand your struggle, and if it means that you have to just not be at those events and not have to force interaction with people, then so be it. You need to be able to understand this unseen war that is happening within you, that's terrorizing your thoughts, what you experience, and thus that projects itself onto the situations that you're in. So I think at this stage you should be very mindful, and also understand that other people are going through the same thing, so you are never alone. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that it's a point of reflection for all of you, and for similar videos please subscribe to Finding Nilo, or you can follow me on Instagram at Finding Nilo.